we've moved into Nauthiz fully by this point. We moved into Nauthiz on the 13th of November, and we are in Nauthiz through the 28th of November. Nauthiz is the rune of need fire. It's what people call to mind most quickly about Nauthiz. And I think the thing that is essential to remember about need fire is that it is high ritual. It's also relatively simple ritual, but the way that it's carried out, the depth, the importance that it's given is what makes it such a big deal. Need fire was a ritual in which the preparation would have started days, if not weeks ahead, in selecting what trees would be the logs for the fire, how it would be kindled, like by hand, and starting it from spark to the extremity of extinguishing all other fire in the village for the purpose of honoring the sacred fire of this need fire. And its purpose was to cleanse the people, the livestock, like everything they could, by running it through the smoke of this fire. It would have been seining. And the significance of that was everything to do with the time of year, like quite possibly winter going into close quarters where everybody would be kind of all up in each other's grills, and being able to know that everything had been literally and liminally cleansed before that close quarters happened. And it would also be a blessing of health coming through that tight space into the new year, for things to be healthy, for things to be plentiful and supportive. Again, not just literally, but liminally. So fire is huge in the experience of need fire. Understanding what you need is what Nauthiz is about. Understanding what you need so that you could create such a significant and deeply felt ritual to be able to ask probably your allies. I don't know that all of us have village in that capacity, but to be able to approach your cosmology when say, this is what I need from you. Now is the time to do that. And I mean, I guess it kind of goes without saying that we're moving into need fire after this US election. And the emphasis really is on understanding what we need individually and collectively, and truly coming into the understanding that those two things aren't separate. Whatever you need, at least a million other people do too. So why not include them in your prayers? Why not include them in your blessings? That sort of coming into the experience of yourself as a collective. I talk about this in From Elder to Ancestor. Some people call it a communal self or collective heart. This understanding that you don't move through life as an individual. And so being able to understand that the things that you need are collective needs as well. And there's emphasis on interdependence in this ritual as well. This coming together to put the ritual together, to make it happen, to get everybody moved through it, to get everybody in the same place at the same time, and bestow upon them what this cleansing smoke, whatever that relationship can give them. There's a collective nature to that whole thing that thrives on our interdependence. And I feel like that's particularly significant now. We need to have relationship with, well, what do you need? Well, I have that. Do you have this? Because I need that. The capability to have these kinds of exchanges at a deep collective level and help meet each other's needs, I find that highly appropriate for what we're moving into in the United States right now, which of course signals to the rest of the world potential. The rune that is best to work with Nauthiz is Berkana reversed. And whenever this rune comes up reversed, it kind of gives me this indication that we're not necessarily standing in our talents as deeply as we could. We're not engaging creative process, or we're feeling like there's something off about it. And that could be individually, it could be energetic block, it could be your capability of connecting with your people or with people, period, could be holding you back from your needs being met. Berkana in general suggests that it's a time to focus on what is rather than what can be. There's not a looking forward component to Berkana. And so when it is reversed, I feel like it's telling us to examine how our system is working, like literally our internal system, maybe our household system, the immediate things that we have organized in and around us that help us get things done, that help us get to the next step. It's not about the next step right now. Because of this reversal, it's about those processes being in place. So again, there could be some pointing back to ritual maybe that needs to be re-explored. Maybe it's time to shake up your rituals, turn them a little bit to the left, or maybe set this one aside and pull in a new one. Something about how we're accessing our feelings of wholeness and completion, closure, is not quite happening. And we need that. There's some particular life area where we need to feel that closure to be able to do this part. So maybe there's some aspect of how you feel about personal as collective that needs some attention. Do you struggle with feeling that you are also a collective? You're not just an individual. Do you have maybe trust issues around that? What around that might need to be addressed so that you feel like your dues have been paid, which is another aspect of Berkana, feeling that your dues have been paid so that you have the foundation to do this part of the communal or collective need meeting. The direction that we're working with this week is back or south. He indicates south for me. And for me, south is to the back. And I found this honestly kind of riveting that south came up in the runecast, specifically around need, and specifically in this timing of finishing out this term and moving into a new term of the presidency here. All eyes are on the South. I'm not suggesting that the rest of this land doesn't have some serious ancestral work to do, but everybody's pretty much in agreement that the South does. And there is something very specific about the land here, I should say, that needs attention. The word I keep going to is atonement, but even I'm not entirely sure what that means in this context. South is the direction of heat, of fire. For me, it's of flat, sandy land. And it's also the direction of death work. It's the direction of the janitors who are continuously cleaning up what is dead, what needs to go. And when they can do their part of the work, then the fungi can come in and lay down new pathways, lay down new routes of feeding and nurturing and teaching. So it's this experience of what is behind me being fully acknowledged so that what can potentially be ahead of me has the opportunity to actually manifest. The element that we're working with this week is, air, represented in the feathers. I like this side better. It's a little bit more colorful. Air is the direction of thought. We attribute it to be mental. It's the space of transmission, of dispersal, but also of sweeping things clean. It's where we carry our intentions so that they can be transmitted to our cosmology, to whomever needs to hear them that can meet that need. So there's a component of air that is expression. It's also life force. It's also sonar. It is audible. It is Galder. There's this emphasis on our ability to make noise. It doesn't have to be words, but our ability to emit noise, sound vibration that generates change that is part of air. So there's an expansive component. And I feel like air would be really good to call on this week for processing, like the stuff that might need to come out here, the things that might be stuck in this reversed Berkana, so that we can do the rituals that we need to hear. Air may be really helpful in helping us get that out, whether it's galdering, singing, or just making weird noises. I cannot express enough how beneficial it is to get out of the way of words, to stop thinking in terms of words, and just give your body opportunity to make sounds, whatever sounds it natively wants to make, and just pay attention to what comes up. Don't necessarily try to interpret it in the moment. Just sit, like, if you can, to the side of yourself and observe what changes and shifts when you let your body make whatever noises it needs to. There's something really important about that kind of transmission with air this week. The season that we're working in is spring here. And that, for me, always indicates new growth. It indicates creativity, the point that humans can actually be a little bit more industrious with and in ecosystem. So there is some urging us to venture out a little bit this week. Maybe not full on, depending on where you are, but this understanding of being more intimately involved with the ecosystem. You need your hands in it. You need to feel it under your feet this week. You need to breathe it. You need to feel it on your skin. That's what we're being asked to do with spring this week. There's also a component of spring that is respecting the new growth that's happening around us. It's not just about us and, oh, it's green and pretty and I want to be out in it. And in terms of experiencing the energy of this season and what is progressing into winter in the north, this aspect of paying attention to what we need to tend so that it can grow the way that it needs to. I always say check in first. Don't just do stuff. Check in and ask what the need is and meet the need. That can be one way that we look after ecosystem, that we look after our house spirits in this season. This literal season with the figurative overlay of human involvement of spring. The earthly helping spirit that we're working with is Yggdrasil this week. So it is tree, but it's more specific than when we have the petrified wood that comes up as tree. It's a little bit more liminal. Whenever the petrified wood version of tree is what comes up in the runecast, it's very Midgard. This is transpersonal. So this is what's rooted as soul in form here, but is stretching into the beyond earth that would be Icier, ally level stuff, and is also rooting into the underworld, which is ancestral, quite possibly unquiet dead, but most definitely wisdom of the earth kind of information of support this week. So maybe we're being asked to adventure up and down this world tree, with whatever's coming up in Berkana that is feeling like we just can't quite bring it home. We can't quite bring it closure. Maybe in Yggdrasil, we're being asked to explore the different levels of that. What might our innermost reserves have to say about that? What might our higher sacred self have to say about that? That might be a place to explore where we discern what needs we're trying to meet this week and quite possibly through this season. We have the bones of the dead, this little spoon indicating the ancestors, and these typically stay with us through the rest of the dark time. We have the stag, which for me indicates the procession of the wild hunt. We'll be moving into that soon, very soon. So all of this cast is focused on need. It's focused on gaining clarity around something that is a little creatively stuck. I don't know what, I guess ond, maybe how we're in relationship with ond could come up here. How we deal with what's coming up in this cast now has everything to do with what we're taking into the wild hunt in the next few weeks. So I feel like getting some clarity on that. And not just clarity like mentally, I know what I want to be rid of. I know what's dead in my life and in the world around me. But genuinely internal reconciliation of what you're ready to let go of is what I feel like we're talking about in the dead things this week. That's what they want us to be really sure of. The Galder that we're working with includes Nauthiz, Naudi, Nid, and Berkano, depending, Berkan, Berk. The way that you put them together needs to be what your body natively feels is the way it should be in relationship, the way it should be expressed. So it could change one syllable to the next. It could be completely changed, and that's fine. Go with it. This is about your body and your breath's relationship with the sound of these runes. This is the way they came together for me. Naudi Beorg, Naudi Beorg, Naudi Beorg, Naudi Beorg, Naudi Beorg, Naudi Beorg, Naudi Beorg. Naudi Berka, Naudi Berka, Naudi Berka, Naudi Berka, Naudi Berka, Naudi Berka. The first approach to the Galder felt good in one way. It felt good in my upper body, literally my upper chakras from my heart all the way up to my crown. But I felt like I wasn't getting the rest, and it needed to all be activated. And I didn't know that that was what would change, but I knew that I needed to change the sound. And so shifting into the second form of the Galder really activated the lower. I tend to be extremely activated in my upper body and not activated enough, or maybe even at all, in my lower body. So for me to feel that activation in my upper chakras first and it not really feel supported is not good for me. So finding a way to shift that downward and feel the full support worked. First of all, I didn't know that was what it would be able to do, but it did what I needed to do. And by moving that down like into the bowl of my pelvic area, it really supported the whole thing all the way up. And that's what I really wanted to feel. I would love to hear how y'all are doing right now, just in general, in the world, in your culture, in your communities, in your house. I would love to hear how you're doing, how the runes are supporting you, and what is dead in your life. What are you ready to let go of? Sometime in the next week, I hope to have a date nailed down to do a wild hunt ritual online. It's challenging because the closer we get to the holidays, people are busy, and yet that's kind of the best time to try to do it. So take care of yourselves, take care of everything that you love.